Last night, at some point, you were in the dark. Maybe you woke up at 3 a.m. and the room felt different than it does in daylight. Maybe you walked down a hallway and something in you went slightly alert before you hit the light switch. Maybe you told yourself it was nothing, but your body had already decided otherwise. You've probably been told that fear of the dark is something you grow out of, a childhood thing, irrational, the kind of instinct that doesn't belong in a world with streetlights and deadbolts and phones that glow in your hand. Except it never fully goes away. And the reason it doesn't isn't a flaw. It's one of the oldest and most precise survival systems ever built into a living creature. And it was built specifically for you. Here's where it actually starts. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, night was not safe, not inconvenient, not uncomfortable. Genuinely, statistically, lethally dangerous. The African savanna, where our ancestors spent millions of years, was not a place that went quiet after dark. It went active. The predators that hunted humans didn't prefer daylight. They preferred the opposite. Leopards are almost entirely nocturnal. Lions do the majority of their hunting between dusk and dawn. Hyenas are most active in the hours after midnight. These aren't animals that occasionally came out at night. Night was their shift. And for most of human prehistory, we didn't have fire reliable enough to keep them back. We didn't have walls. We didn't have weapons sophisticated enough to guarantee survival. What we had was awareness. The ones who stayed alert after dark were the ones who made it to morning. In 2011, a team of anthropologists studying predation patterns in early human environments published findings that reframed how researchers think about this. They found that leopards, in particular, were responsible for a significant portion of early hominid deaths, and that the evidence was concentrated in contexts suggesting nighttime attacks. Fossil records from sites in South Africa showed hominid bones with leopard bite marks recovered from the same caves leopards use as dens. These weren't random encounters. They were hunts. And they happened in the dark. So what does your brain actually do when the lights go out? Researchers at the University of Queensland ran a series of studies measuring threat detection in low light conditions. What they found was precise. In darkness or near darkness, the amygdala, the part of your brain that processes fear and threat, becomes significantly more active. Not slightly, significantly. Your brain doesn't just become more cautious in the dark. It shifts into a fundamentally different operating mode. Threat assessment goes up. Pattern recognition increases. Your hearing sharpens. Your body begins preparing for movement before you've consciously registered anything worth moving away from.
This isn't anxiety. It's a system switching on. The same way your pupils dilate to let in more light, your threat detection network expands to compensate for what your eyes can no longer confirm. You can't see what's out there, so your brain starts assuming something is. And here's the part that changes how you think about this. That assumption saved lives. For millions of years, the humans who felt nothing in the dark, the ones whose brains stayed calm and unbothered when visibility dropped to zero, were the ones who didn't hear the leopard coming. The ones who felt that low, persistent unease, that sense that something might be there even when nothing was visible, those were the ones who stayed close to the fire, who didn't wander, who woke at sounds that turned out to be nothing, and survived the night that wasn't nothing. Fear of the dark wasn't a weakness in your ancestors. It was a filter. The people without it didn't pass their genes forward at the same rate. You are, quite literally, descended from the people who were afraid. There's a concept in evolutionary biology called an environment of evolutionary adaptedness. It refers to the conditions under which a particular trait was selected for. The environment your fear of the dark was built for was not your apartment. It was open ground, no walls, no fire, no guarantee of morning. Your brain doesn't know you live somewhere with deadbolts and motion sensor lights. It's running a program written over millions of years for a completely different set of conditions. And it runs it every time the lights go out, because it has no way of knowing those conditions have changed. Electric light has existed for roughly 150 years. Modern enclosed shelter, widespread and reliable, has existed for a few thousand. Your brain has been running its nighttime threat protocol for somewhere between 1 and 2 million years. 150 years is not enough time to rewrite that. Not even close.
Researchers at Vrije University Amsterdam studied how fear of the dark persists across age groups and found something worth noting. The intensity of the response decreases as people age,
but it never disappears entirely in healthy adults. Even people who consciously believe there is nothing to fear in the dark show measurable physiological changes when exposed to it. Elevated heart rate, increased cortisol, heightened auditory attention. The conscious mind can be convinced the body keeps running the old program anyway. And it's not just humans. Our closest primate relatives show the same pattern. Chimpanzees, who share over 98% of our DNA, become measurably more agitated and vigilant as daylight fades. They cluster together, vocalizations change, movement slows and becomes more deliberate. Researchers studying chimpanzee behavior in the wild noted that nighttime is consistently when social bonds tighten, when the group pulls closer, when the individuals most alert to threat become most valued. The darkness doesn't just trigger fear, it reorganizes social behavior. That's how deep this runs. Think about what that means for us. Humans didn't just evolve to fear the dark individually. We evolved to respond to it together. The campfire wasn't just a heat source. It was a social technology, a way of shrinking the dark, pooling awareness, keeping every set of eyes and ears pointed outward. The instinct to find other people when it gets dark, to feel safer in a lit room with someone else in it, that's not weakness. That's the same behavior that kept groups alive on the savannah for millions of years. You feel better with the light on and someone nearby because your ancestors survived by doing exactly that.
So here's the full picture. Somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, the humans with an active, persistent fear of darkness survived the nights that killed the ones without it. That fear got passed forward, selected for, refined across thousands of generations until it became structural, built into the amygdala, written into the nervous system. By the time modern humans arrived, the fear wasn't a learned behavior anymore. It was hardware. Then, almost overnight in evolutionary terms, we built walls and invented fire and eventually wired our homes with light switches. And the hardware didn't update. It couldn't. Evolution doesn't move on a human timeline. Last night when you woke up and the room felt different, your brain wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what it was built to do. Scanning, listening, holding the possibility open that something was out there. Because for most of your species' existence, something was. The darkness that felt threatening wasn't a trick your mind was playing on you. It was your mind working correctly, running a program so old and so effective that 150 years of electric light hasn't been enough to turn it off. You were afraid of the dark last night for the same reason your ancestors survived the night a leopard came close and turned back, because something in both of you refused to assume it was safe. That's not irrational. That's the reason you're here.